Over the last few weeks, the cracks in American evangelicalism's uncritical support for the modern state of Israel have become impossible to ignore. The Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes controversy, followed by the Heritage Foundation's response, has revealed something that many of us have seen coming for a long time. A younger generation of believers is no longer buying the idea that unquestioning loyalty to Israel is a Christian duty. Now, for the record, I don't share the views of Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes. My concern is not their politics, but the deeper theological confusion within American Christianity that has made this kind of debate inevitable. According to a poll conducted a few months before Hamas's October 7th attack, U.S. millennials are the first generation in history to sympathize more with Palestinians than with Israelis. And in my recent article and podcast on TrueRichesAcademy.com entitled Questions Christian Zionists Must Answer, I spoke about how for decades a distorted theological view of the modern state of Israel has helped shape the American church into an institution that too often sanctifies military aggression, justifies the oppression of Palestinians, and confuses political alliances with God's covenant promises. Now, with the world watching Israel's annihilation of the people of Gaza, many young believers are asking what Jesus would say about the suffering of children, the bombing of hospitals, and the displacement of an entire people. Those honest questions are striking a nerve in churches that have long avoided them. If these seem like radical questions, it only goes to show how seared our consciences have become. Instead, these are moral questions that demand an answer. Yet for years, Christian Zionist leaders have brushed them aside, while warning about how those who don't bless the modern state of Israel will face God's curse. Of course, most Christian Zionists teach that to bless Israel means supporting, or at the very least not questioning, its political and military ambitions. Implicit in that worldview is the belief that empathy, grace, and forgiveness should not be extended to the enemies of modern Israel, since they are cursed by God. But if that's true, why did Jesus bless his enemies and command his followers to do the same? Those tired interpretations of Genesis 12 are losing their grip on a new generation that is reading the Sermon on the Mount and realizing that Christ's example of nonviolent love of friends and enemies cannot coexist with cheering on a genocide. The next generation is looking for a faith that looks more like Jesus and less like Moses. Christian Zionism has tied the church's witness to the machinery of empire. It has replaced empathy and compassion with ideology and efficiency, while making allegiance to a modern nation-state a test of faithfulness to Jesus. That sounds more like idolatry than discipleship. Those who reject Christian Zionism are not rejecting Jesus and his example of nonviolent love of friends and enemies. Instead, I believe they are in the early stages of rediscovering the gospel of peace. What I believe the next generation is rejecting is a political religion that supports or at least ignores genocide against those it deems enemies of God, and is seeking instead the one who healed the ear of his enemy in the Garden of Gethsemane and who forgave his own executioners. I believe it is long past time for us to listen, learn, and repent. And when we do, we may find that the unraveling of Christian Zionism in America is not a tragedy at all, but rather a merciful warning that faith without love eventually loses its voice and its witness.